Gilbert tells me he had a surgery to kind of relieve some pressure in the neck shoulder area. I mean, what is it like to finally get to a answer on what it can do?
Yeah, it's obviously it takes a lot of it takes a lot off your mind for sure, right? When you battle some injuries and then starting with the Tommy John and you think you're back and you're not quite feeling like you should, right?
Mhm.
And this is discovered, and then that is taken care of. It's a huge weight off your shoulders. So I'm happy for him, right? I mean, he had some big momentum, as his career unfolded, and it happened pretty quickly, right? From where he was an A-ball and had a big instructional league and got him on the map and was really impressive. When he first got to us in big league camp and what we saw. But I think now he's healthy, feels good, clear mind, and is really able to focus, just truly on pitching.
What about from the left? I mean, you have him back, but Peralta showed you a lot last year.
Right.
Then Evan Justice, he battled some injuries. He goes to the fall league, has an excellent, and maybe even Palmquist. He kind of detail what you have from the left out of the board.
Well, Peralta was a good pickup. He to your point, he proved that his stuff plays in the big leagues. It's still really early in his career, but getting to know him, there was a lot to like. I like the poise. I like how he carries himself. He's acting as though he truly belongs in a lot of ways, right? He's confident. But you look at the stuff and it's a real good fastball and it's a pretty good slider and a developing changeup. Gilbreth, again, we'd like him to return to form, the form that we saw when he first got to us. And like I mentioned earlier, he's in a place that I think he's past the rehab stage, right? He's past that, and I think he wants to be past that and just focus on being a regular pitcher. And that's important for him mentally. And with Justice, a couple of years ago, big year in Double-A, it was a 4-level move to the big leagues. But his stuff, is what carried him, right? The fastball velocity, the ability to spin the ball, his deceptive delivery were all, part of his success. And now he's just got to rein it in. It's been a little erratic. And that's been, probably a function of, battling some injuries, not being, completely 100% physically, and again trying to, harness that delivery a little bit, which, is unique how he throws the ball. But that's what makes him, the uniqueness to his delivery. So those three guys, and then you add in Palmquist, right, as the, as a potential starter / reliever. We feel as though we got some youth with some stuff and some uniqueness to all of them, which is what you want. So, that's one thing. The last couple of years we haven't really had the bona fide lefty reliever that that really dominates lefties. We gotta somebody has to come in there and hopefully be a part of a bullpen that's able to do that, really be, tough on left-handed lineups.
What is there an ideal number of lefties, or if they're the best guys?
Yeah, I think you take the best. You try to take the best guys, but again, like we've talked about, there are certain left-handed hitters who just don't hit left-handed pitching, no matter who the lefty is. So, and we have those guys identified throughout the league. But if you don't have a lefty, you don't have a lefty. But I mean, ideally, a couple lefties, works in the bullpen, maybe 3. I know some teams, carry 3. It just depends on the makeup of your staff. But most importantly, you got to be a good pitcher.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Done, but keep going. Last year, Justin Lawrence, he began the year closing some games for you. And basically what he said was hey, I didn't do what I thought I should have done. I own that, and I'm going to work hard to get back. And he's talked about that. What have you seen from him? What do you expect from that guy?
Well, with Justin, you're right. He, the inconsistency and the, a lot of times overanalyzing. He got himself in a pickle. It was just, a situation where, the more he fought to get out of it, the worse it got. But he's got such good stuff, and we've seen dominant stretches of performance that still leads me to believe that it's in there to have a big year. His challenge has always been consistency with his pitches, from pitch to pitch, inning to inning, outing to outing. And that's the challenge for all pitchers. I mean, not just Justin, but everyone, right? To have consistent performance, to have a consistent long career. You just build on that, over time. And from his arm slot, right? It's a little more difficult, one might say, because to manipulate the breaking ball and have a fastball that moves from down here, it really. You really need, to be physically consistent with your mechanics. You can't have variation in your arm slot. So, I mean, that's, something that he's really tried to work on. And I think now, 3+ years in the big leagues, the service time is, to a point where I think he's, on his, more in a spot to really figure this out and mentally get there, right? Because for him, it's been, a little bit variable. And like you said, he's the, first to admit it. He's owned it, but he also knows the talent that he has, and it should be, on balance, a little bit more productive.
Hey, one more guy, let me get just some thoughts. Tyler Kinley. As the season went last year, it seemed like maybe sometime around the time of the trade deadline, July, August, he finally felt like himself, because when you come back from an injury, you're healthy, but then it takes a while to get back to yourself. Do you think that maybe he's back to physically what you think?
Yeah, he had a really good run, in the middle part of the season, towards the latter part of the season. Again, for him, it's all about strikes. It's, pitching principles, getting ahead in the count, using the velocity fastball, hard slider, mixing the changeup to the left-handed hitter. But he was just basically throwing more strikes, and he piled up, a lot of outings with zeros, and really put a run together. So, and he's figured some things out, last year, coming back from the injury that, has put him in a good spot too. So, he's built the right way, mentally. He's a great team guy, selfless. So, with Tyler, I think, things are lining up to have a big year.
Just about everybody's here, right? Even position wise, almost everybody.
Yeah, on the pitching staff, everybody's here. The position players are here in mass. There's a couple guys who are coming in today, and that's fine. They'll be ready to go Tuesday. But I think the last few guys are coming in this weekend to be ready for Tuesday's full squad workout. But physically, everybody's good. Like we talked about, Sean Sullivan, the young lefty. He's a little bit behind just with the hip situation. But everybody else is, on their throwing programs. The workouts are structured. Throwing programs, the side works, the live BPs that are, just around the corner. Guys are lining up for that with no issues. So, knock on wood, everything's good.
When was the last time you checked in with KB? What was the last medical.
I saw
check-in?
KB at the Fan Fest, so that's just a couple weeks ago. But he's doing fine. I know that I think Bam Bam has been in contact with him within the last 24 hours. I think KB's coming into Arizona today. We could see him tomorrow. So he's doing fine. Feels good. I mean, all his workouts in the off season that were tracked by Keith and Gabe and Jaspy are on point. He feels good. So we'll see.
Thanks. With Nolan Jones, how much do you emphasize the mechanics of it all, the approach, all the on the field stuff? I know that he put a lot of pressure on himself
Sure.
off the field, but do you try to hone in on one or the other, or
No.
do you still?
It's a combination of both. I think all players like to talk about the physical part of their craft.
Mhm.
You can talk about pitching mechanics or hitting mechanics. Players like talking about those things, right? Some more than others. Some place a high emphasis on mechanics,
Yeah.
others don't. So it's individually based. I know Nolan does. Nolan talks about the physical part, his swing, his mechanics. So, and that's a part of it. And I know there's some things that Nolan and the hitting coaches talk about within his swing, and Nolan likes that. We also know that just based on our conversations with him and him being open about how he's doing mentally, that's a component too. The expectation, the pressure he puts on himself, the pressure players put on themselves. So that's a part of him, and that's a conversation as well. I don't know where one weighs heavily over the other. It could vary from day to day, right? If usually when a player's in a good spot, swinging the bat well, getting hits, the mental side takes care of itself, right? It's when the opposite occurs. You're not getting hits, and then here comes the mental side. So, from a coach's perspective, you're watching that every day. You're watching that, at times hourly. So
When you came over from Cleveland, seemed like there was a little bit of a book on him about getting out hard inside.
All right.
But the second half of his first year, he kind of closed
Yeah,
that book a
sure,
bit. So
yeah.
is that one of the things where, hey, we've seen it, we know it's in there?
yeah, it's in there. And again, you've heard me say it before. If a player does something one time, he's capable of doing it again. So, with Nolan, as far as the, like you said, the book on him early was, hey, big guy, long arms, likes to get extended, good power to left center field. Let's get the fastball in on him because his swing sets up to, right center field gap, to left field. So to combat that, there's a lot of inside velocity. There's breaking stuff down underneath, and he made the adjustment, in 23. He was able to get the head of the bat, catch the ball out front, pull homer, a breaking ball that didn't get down and in, right field corner, right field. I mean, he was locked in. I mean, 290, 390 on base. I mean, it was legit. So it's in there. And then again, what happened last year was all the, his own, personal expectation, pressure he put on himself to do more, and that just compounded itself.
And the other part, he had a back injury.
Yeah, he was banged up a little bit at the back, and a little bit of a knee situation too. So.
Is what this camp is big on pitchers.
Right.
And I'm thinking, and you and I talked a little bit about that, but I talked to Chase Dollander this morning at length, and the maturity level that I sense from him, I talked to Gerald Scott about
Right.
it too. It seems to be a little higher for
Yeah.
somebody his age.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that has stood out for me, and the conversations that I've had with player development. Our front office, over the last year or since we've drafted him, has, sort of centered around not only the talent, the stuff, but, the guy, the person. And it seems as that you know, that that character trait of maturity is even more prevalent now that I've been around him. Now he's been, pro ball for, a couple seasons now. And, to your point, I think, his poise, his confidence, his, self-assurance is real, is genuine. And that's a good thing. I think he has good perspective. Also, I think he also knows he's young. He's got a lot to learn, but there's a confidence in there that you like to see.
Thomas has written about this a couple of times about his journaling. Dollander does the journal, and he was telling me about how he uses a Google Calendar to track all of his stuff, and he has input from his mental skills coach. All of that. It just seems like he has like this game plan about where he wants to go, and how he wants to get there. That maybe is a little unusual.
Well, I think you never really know, what every player's going through or what they're doing, right? And it's it's obvious that he's opened up and shared some things.
Right.
There's 60 guys in that room. You probably don't ask every single one about this, but this guy's a high profile guy. But that sort of tells you a little bit about him, right? His commitment, his overall foundation, I think, is what is important. And I think any player who has success, there's an underlying strong foundation that is set, and it continue to be, that foundation continues to be laid. But if you start with a good one, it sort of gives you a leg up in a lot of ways as you approach the major leagues.
I'm wondering, just piggybacking, if you will, on Patrick's point. When he was in college and they started getting the NIL money, he actually got with companies that could give him stuff that would help him pitching-wise, whether it's apparatuses or whatever. Are we going to be seeing more of that now that kids can actually represent companies? Maybe they'll be more prepared because they'll have more access.
Well, again, I'm not exactly sure what is going on in the the NIL world, and as it relates to college prospects or young minor league players. I do know this though, right? The resources that are available for young athletes, it's off the charts. You can get anything you want. And on the other end of that, there's a whole bunch of people trying to get in there too. They're trying to, get a piece of that, get a part of that player. And that's good and bad, right? So I think there has to be some sort of filtering system, from a player's perspective and the player's camp, whether that, that's parents, advisors, agents, whoever that is, that, he's, at the end of the day in that last room, and you're the player and who he's with, you figure this out, what works for you and what doesn't, because there's a lot out there. And we've talked about that just, on the hitting side, the off-season stuff, and, all the things that are available for players to improve. But it's at times going to be a real slippery slope of what path you go down, or multiple paths you go down to try to get better. So, but again, I'm still getting to know him, but from what I've seen so far, there seems to be a pretty good core existence here of doing the right things and being in a good spot.
What would be your hopeful next step for Michael Toglia? I mean, he posted up. You like to talk about that.
Sure.
I don't know how many games he played.
and every inning.
Yeah, right. And we've seen his ability around the bag and his glove, and we saw him make incremental improvements at the plate.
Yeah.
To become the next player he wants to be.
I think that it's each season's different, right? So but I think he's as far as the durability piece, I think that, he has a will to play and wants to play a lot, right? I think there has to be that, in the player that, I'm an everyday player. I want to play every day, right? There's a mindset. I think he has that. The defensive side is real. He's a really good defender, and I think that he's going to, in time, get his due, nationally, both inside the game and outside the game. But that takes time, as you know, right? You got to pass the test of time a little bit your first couple of years, and you got to perform and do it, and then people start recognizing it, that it's real. I think offensively, we know he has power. Showed last year, 20 plus homers. I think for him, it's the incremental improvement on some of the statistical things that we've talked about. Lower the strikeout rate, put the ball play a little bit more in certain situations to get RBIs. I think the walk rate will be fine. His control of the strike zone is pretty good. He has just the we've talked about the chase rate. Swinging the balls outside the zone. And again, that's he's facing major league pitching he was regularly now last year, and we saw that. That's those statistics around the chase and the strikeout. So that's what he has to improve. I mean, if you look at the really good players in the league, the really good offensive players, their strikeout rates and walk rates are within certain limits, and he's got to get his within those limits to really be known as one of those really good players.
If he can take that next step, I mean, it doesn't have to all come this year.
No,
or whatever,
that's not.
Can he become part of the foundation going forward
Sure,
for this organization?
no doubt, because he's a foundation for me is a handful of everyday players. Right? I don't know whether you need 8 everyday players, but it's hard to find 8.
Yeah.
But you need a handful of guys that you count on every day to be your guys, and he definitely can be one of them because he's an all-around player. Because he plays defense, he's got power, he posts, he's durable, and now he's just just a little bit of the improvement on some of the offensive components.
Was there ever any realistic talk about him bailing on being a switch hitter? I know
I don't think so.
He was always adamant that,
No.
hey, I am a switch
Not
hitter.
from me.
Not from the organization.
No. I think that came from the outside.
Buddy, you've had good infields here, like the one that was here when you got here. And I think during the winter, Dick Mumford said, what, greatest infield in the history of baseball, was that what he said?
Best defense.
Best defensive infield in the history of baseball. But how does the potential for this compare to the infields you got when you first showed up?
Well, you look at, when I first got here, Nolan, perennial Gold Glover. Trevor, was a second-year player with, defensive skills. DJ, what a really sound defender. And then, the first basemen for the first couple of years, Reynolds, Desmond, real players, real first basemen. So this is definitely comparable, right? I mean, Mac has been a Gold Glove finalist. Tovar has won his first Gold Glove. Hopefully that's one of many. Estrada is a good defender. I think that, a healthy Estrada, going back from the wrist and hand injury last year, his metrics prove that, he can cover ground and make plays, and Toglia. It's a good group. How I rank them, I mean, let's play first, right? And then I think we'll see that in their play. But we're confident in their abilities defensively.
In a nutshell, what's the catching competition look like right now as you head into? I know they've been in camp for a while. Full squad officially tomorrow. We know Stallings.
Stallings is a veteran, and you look at Nola was signed, as a Stallings type player. I've really liked what I've seen from him. Just the solid veteran presence, communicator, personality, good, just a lot of good stuff from him. And he'll catch some. But then the three younger catchers, Goodman, Romo, Fulford, are going to put their best foot forward, right? And they all have different strengths that
Right.
they bring a little different, right? I mean, Goody with the potential bat, with the power, and he does some good things with game calling, and Romo with an overall defensive skill set, strong arm, quick feet, blocks, eager to learn, switch hitter. Fulford, probably technically the best catcher of the three. Just technically, if you were to, put a bunch of catching instructors out, and
Right.
they'd say to Fulford, arm stroke, arm strength, block, hands. So, but hasn't hit a ton in the minors. Hit well in the second half of last season in Double-A, but that's sort of how it looks. And then the two younger catchers, Palma and Betancourt, here to just get experience, be around our guys, and continue to grow.
How instrumental do you think Stallings was to the growth of Feltner last year? I know you you paired those two up. I'm pretty sure Stallings caught Feltner most of the time, didn't he?
I'd have to look, but I know Romo caught Feltner the last game of the year. And Feltner pitched great,
Yeah.
right? We lost that game 2-1 to the Dodgers. Well pitched by Feltner. And Feltner was really good in the second half.
Yeah.
But I think Stallings was good for the whole group. I'd have to look specifically to Feltner, but I think that was the one thing that came to our attention when we were talking about the potential of Jacob coming back, was his overall impact, on the team itself and the pitching staff, and in general, because that's his obviously main focus.
How much do you keep the ability to move the outfield or even first baseless on the plate for Goodman?
Not we told him this winter that we wanted him to concentrate on catching. To be fair to him, to really focus on that, because I think his best chance to make the team would be there. It's not to discount that he can't do the other things. I mean, we'll see as spring goes and what happens with the rest of the group. But I didn't want his attention diverted. That's unfair to him if we were thinking about having him be one of our catchers. You're going to catch.
Because
And there was a
the
lot
way
of, a lot of conversations with Red and Dustin this year, on mechanics of everything, catching and throwing, and the whole thing. And so we made it clear to him that, hey, you're coming in here as a catcher.
he showed some ability in game calling and a few
Yeah.
other things back there
Yeah,
last season.
I mean, you like the power too. I mean, again, we don't know how this is going to shake out, but power's dangerous. Now, again, he's one of those guys that has to, as we talk about Toglia, I mean, he has to. There's some things against big league pitching that he has to improve upon.
But do you think, one more thing, do you think the average fan or even the average media guy understands, at least from your perspective, how instrumental or how important a catcher can be to a young pitcher?
I don't think so.
Right, because you talk about
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah.
And it seems to me it's one of your tenets of.
Yeah, I think there's a feeling of it's a good security blanket knowing who's back there, and the trust that you have in when it's really critical, game on the line, middle of the game, or for the starting pitcher, right, 5th, 6th, 7th inning, or even early in the game with a big strike, where a crisis is happening, that veteran guy, whether it's a mound visit or pitch selection, you trust. And there's no, you're not on different pages, you're just unsure, the uncertainty that comes at times with young pitching, right? What they're thinking, you never know what's in a guy's head, but that assurance that guy's been there, has done it, has been through, many of these situations before. It's really self-assuring for a pitcher to know that, especially bullpen. If we're going to have a younger bullpen, right, and having that veteran catcher back there, knowing how to work your way through those 9 outs and without giving up, a run, a pitch around here, pitch around a guy to get to the next guy type deal is important. And again, the in between inning conversations are critical growth moments, learning moments, all those things. Okay.
Thanks, buddy.